peppers, and cheese. Gagan's all right? Forget.
Tony Soprano is about to curb stomp this man's teeth out in this scene. It's gonna happen a little under 2 minutes from now. Without context, some people's initial response to this might be that it's uncalled for, or they may opt to wet themselves. But smart people, on the other hand, would generally think something more around the lines of bite the curb, motherfucker, or curb stomp LMAO. In context, Tony was doing this because this guy Coco said this to his daughter Meadow.
Yeah, you got a little cream on your mouth there, sweetie. Be happy to add to it.
Tony fought tooth and nail for his daughter, like any reasonable father would. Tony Soprano does what many would outwardly detest, yet inwardly envy, because they do not have the moxie to do it themselves. In fact, many argue that his excessive violence in scenes like this, or how he treats people in general, is inexcusable, and he's a textbook sociopath. Therefore, a bad person. But on the contrary, it is precisely scenes like this that prove that he didn't have a bad bone in his body, but merely broke the bad bones in others. Just because he chooses the upfront aggressive approach doesn't make him a bad person or even morally ambiguous whatsoever. Today, we are going to look at perhaps the most based acting performance to ever grace the screen, and why, contrary to popular belief, Tony Soprano was the epitome of a good person.
Lamella, can you please shut the door?
I thought I was out. They pulled me back in. I wanted to fuck a woman, but I compromised. I jacked off in a tissue.
How far is it to Atlantic City? It's the jacket!
Nothing but that, motherfucker. Has he been shot?
Get back.
According to some of the greatest philosophers and great thinkers, these are the qualities that make a good person. Now, I'm going to walk you through why Tony hits every single one of these. They are honest in relationships. Tony is probably one of the most honest characters portrayed on television. Some people may consider him even a little too honest. He confronts his good friend Babby about his weight in a quite respectable manner, making sure not to fat shame him, of course. He does this by strongly encouraging Babby to choose some healthier food options.
I think it's time for you to start to seriously consider salads.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean, get off my car before you flip it over, you fat fuck.
Tony was encouraging Bacala to lose some weight because he genuinely cared about him. One thing that many people think Tony was at fault for was supposedly lying to his only true friend, Artie Bucco, about burning down his restaurant.
I didn't burn down your restaurant.
But the thing is Tony didn't actually burn down Artie's restaurant. In reality, Silvio did it. So really, Tony was telling the truth. They compliment others when deserved. Tony doesn't dish out many compliments on the show, but this is because no one really deserved them. For instance, Meadow's boyfriend, sure, the racial remarks were slightly uncalled for.
What'd you check?
African American.
So we do understand each other. You're, Titsu.
Excuse me?
Charcoal briquette, a moulignon.
What's your problem?
But he still deserved it completely because he willingly chose to have that haircut.
He's a fag.
Someone calling a homosexual man this slur should normally be detested because it's completely homophobic. But Vito had done some heinous things in the past, such as kill Jackie Jr., kill an innocent man just to save himself, or even suck this man's penis in this scene. So Vito didn't deserve to be complimented by Tony at all. Tony doesn't compliment his son AJ much. In fact, this was the only scene where he showed him that he was proud of his son. But if he constantly complimented his son, then AJ would never strive to be the best he could be. As a famous musician once said, there are no two words in the English language worse than good job. Also, Tony was in the right here because I'm no scientist, but AJ was a little bitch. They call their parents regularly. Not much needs to be said here. Tony makes sure to call his mother regularly, as we can see here, and visits with his uncle constantly. He even takes a bullet for his uncle here. They're polite. Politeness is a very important quality to have in a person. Tony has always been a polite guy, constantly making sure everyone is accommodated. And what's important about politeness is that there are no ulterior motives, which Tony would never have. For instance, when he met Gloria, he let her take his appointment with Dr. Melfi.
You know, listen, you're here. Why don't you take my appointment?
Oh, no, I couldn't do that. No.
No, be my good deed for the day.
He was just doing that out of the goodness of his heart, not because he had anything else in mind. They are kind to everyone. This is a pretty easy one. Tony is constantly hooking people up. He tries to help his best friend Artie start a business venture, and he even lets this guy into his high-stakes poker game. I mean, it ended up not exactly working out in some of these cases, but that wasn't Tony's fault. He set them up to succeed, but they were the ones who let him down.
Tony, I'm sorry. I'm just having some bad luck.
Just got worse.
So what happened to them was out of Tony's control, really. They are generous with their belongings. Tony is one of the most generous people in The Sopranos. He gives this guy, a random stranger, the famous jacket that Richie Aprile gave him in season 2.
It's the jacket.
The jacket.
The jacket.
As Richie says, Tony loves that jacket.
How's the jacket?
What jacket?
I gave your little brother a beautiful leather jacket. You still liking the jacket, Tone?
It's terrific, Rich.
And so Tony showed his absolute generosity by giving it away. They remember their manners. You know what they say, manners maketh the man. And Tony, being raised by two strict Catholics, made him understand that manners are super important. He has a strict no swearing policy for anybody that isn't himself in his house.
Are you trying to get me to lose my temper because I'm about to put you through that goddamn window?
Which made his kids both turn out much more disciplined and successful, especially AJ.
Sucks to be you.
Tony respects the value of having good manners so much, he even asks this man in a very non-aggressive way to remove his cap in a restaurant. How much more of a stand-up guy could you possibly be?
Take your hat off.
Excuse me?
They don't sell hot dogs here. They took the bleachers out 2 years ago.
It's my hat. I'll wear it where I want.
They think of others. Tony is constantly thinking of others. Rarely does he put his own needs above that of other people, especially family, because family means the world to Tony. So when his Uncle Junior's cancer doctor decides he won't treat Junior anymore, Tony stands up for his uncle and asks him if he would reconsider. Politely, of course. He even offers the doctor a brand new golf club. Tony's selflessness even rubs off on his business associates. Furio, in this same scene, helps out the doctor by shooing away a pesky bee, which could have stung the man.
You got a bee on your hat.
They go the extra mile. We've established that throughout the series, Tony is well known for helping people out. He gets his friends out of pickles when they need them, and he stands by the people that he loves. But how does Tony go that extra mile? Well, in this scene, Tony goes the extra mile for his nephew Christopher because he knew how badly Christopher had been struggling with drug addiction over the years. So in this scene, in the final season no less, Tony helps Christopher when no one else would with his drug problem. Tony decides to go the extra mile by permanently ending Christopher's toxic relationship for good with oxygen. Many argue that Tony was stepping on Christopher's toes in this scene, but oxygen is a highly addictive and poisonous substance, which always results in death. He was the only one in Christopher's life that would go the extra mile and help end his addiction to the stuff for good. They are kind to their loved ones. Not only is Tony kind to his loved ones, but he takes it one step further. Tony fucks his family. He describes the importance of fucking one's family in this scene with Johnny Sack.
What we are here for, in the end, is to fuck our sons, fuck our families. That's what's important.
They smile. Not much needs to be said here. Tony smiles all the time, which makes him a good person.
No shit.
Look at this baby. I caught right up the point here.
They make the best out of every situation. Tony had to go into his office for more hours, which he finds extremely droll. So he makes the best out of the situation. He fucks his office assistant. They make friends easily. They don't take things for granted. Spending time with your family is super important because time goes by so fast. Tony realizes this and spends as much time with his family as possible, especially his wife. They are consistent. Now, if it's one thing Tony is, it's consistent. He is consistently short-tempered, manipulative, unfaithful to his wife, and violent towards others throughout the entire series. This consistency marks a truly good person. Now, one thing I want to add to this list that I think was missing that makes a good person is being gentle. Tony shows his sensitive side all the time. Like when he shows how he just wants Uncle June to love him.
I mean, don't you love me?
Or how Tony loves all animals, and they seem to all love him. And when he admits to his daughter Meadow how everyone can be scared sometimes.
Because I know what it's like to be scared.
You get scared?
Yeah, sure, everybody gets scared sometimes.
This takes a lot of courage for a man to reveal his more vulnerable side, let alone to his daughter. Now let's address one of Tony's criticisms, his weight. Perhaps the largest piece of evidence that people point to when trying to make the case that Tony is a terrible person is that he's fat. Well, this would normally be a perfectly valid reason for someone having a terrible moral compass. In Tony's case, it is perfectly excusable. He's not fat because he's bad. It's simply the gabagool.
Gabagool! It's the jacket!
I'm a slice of gabagool.
Gabagool. Gabagool!
Gabagool.
Gabagool, Granny.
Gabagool.
Gabagool. That gabagool. Gabagool!
My slice of gabagool. My slice of gabagool. Ready for the gabagool.
Gabagool, Grandma.
The gabagool.
We have established so many of Tony's good qualities so far and discredited any of his bad ones. And if you aren't already convinced that Tone's ethics are superb, here's my final point. Who are some of the best people to walk this earth? Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Rogers, the Crocodile Hunter, Shaquille O'Neal, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Genghis Khan, Harambe. What do these individuals all have in common? Sure, they're nice, support charities, led empires, flung poop at people, and tried making a difference in this dark world. But the main thing that all these individuals have in common with Tony Soprano is one simple thing. They all have the makings of a varsity athlete. Being athletic in your early years is an obvious sign that someone is going to turn out to be a good person. This is because athletic prowess is a clear indication that the level of Chad within that individual is extremely high. David Chase knew this, and he made sure to keep Tony's athleticism up for debate because Chase wanted to keep Tony's morality ambiguous. So ever since the show's original airing over a decade ago, Tony's early athleticism has been talked about endlessly. But today I will finally put this debate to rest by examining one of The Sopranos' most controversial debates within its 6-season runtime. And that, of course, is if Tony actually had the makings of a varsity athlete. Uncle June says to Tony at the dinner table that he never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
Your father never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
Oh, what the...
As we can see, this makes Tony visibly upset. James Gandolfini does a masterful job of showing his anger in this scene. Notice how he touches his face, which is the first sign of unease and anger. Then his face twitches. He stares Junior down and he raises his voice.
What?
It's not true. I let it in football.
Tony ends up screaming and storming out.
All I know is you never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
Oh, son of a bitch!
What?
Even from the beginning, we knew how much this statement affected Tony's self-esteem.
I love my uncle. At the same time, when I was young, he told my girl cousins I would never be a varsity athlete, and frankly, that was a tremendous blow to my self-esteem.
Tony is mad, and rightfully so. He understands that Junior is just doing this to needle him, and in reality, Junior is actually capping, because Junior really did believe he had the makings of a varsity athlete.
Remember when you used to
I
tell
always
me...
thought you could make the pros. You could have done it. You had a swing like Joe D.
Tony is showing how much he values honesty in this scene and explodes.
Now, Tony, shit! Get your coat, we're leaving.
Because he knows that Junior is merely saying this to get under his skin. He is truly sad that his uncle and his relationship has fallen to such a level of dishonesty. He is really just looking for love from one of the only role models he has left.
I mean, don't you love me?
If you need any more proof as to if Tony had the makings to be a varsity athlete, let's take a look at a few examples that will leave you with no more doubts. Tony was able to strangle a man with his bare hands, meaning he had some serious strength. Also, Tony is able to effortlessly beat up a much younger, more muscular man in his prime, who was completely out of line. And finally, the best piece of proof that Tony had the makings for a varsity athlete was in this scene, when Tony runs faster than any character on the show. This is when Tone had to escape Christopher and Paulie trying to shoot him at Johnny Sack's house. He successfully gets away without as much as a head start, which is an impeccable feat that even some of the greatest could not accomplish. I went to film school, so I definitely know what I'm talking about when I say that Tony has every quality that makes a good person. And any people who believe he has any bad qualities are just frankly not looking at the big picture here, or are just on their first watch through of the show, because I'm on my second, which makes me an expert here. So despite popular belief, Tony's violence was justified every time. Especially here, because he was merely cutting off Ralphie and Christopher's toxic relationship to Oxygen. Sometimes the right thing isn't always easy, and Tony knew this and always took the high road. Even the scholars agree that the right thing isn't always the easiest thing to do. Tony often had to do countless things that were difficult, but that doesn't mean that they were any less right. Tony was a gentle, misunderstood soul with the true heart of a Chad. Many debate on if Tony was whacked or not in the final scene of The Sopranos, but the real debate lies on if he deserved it or not. And he most certainly did not. I hope after watching this there is no longer any debate. Tony was the epitome of goodness, rivaling that of Jesus Christ or even Shaquille O'Neal. And just like Jesus and Shaq, Tony died for the sins of those around him, but most importantly, he absolutely had the makings of a varsity athlete. Thanks for watching.
Gabriela says we down here for the gabagool.
Tony Gabagool Graham. It's nothing but fat and nitrate.
Forward ham, salami, gabagool.
Taking the gabagool and shit out of the fridge.
Let's get back to that gabagool.
Gabagool!
All this from a slice of gabagool? The gabagool. The gabagool.
Let's get back to that gabagool.
The gabagool.
Gabagool!
Hey, so I was thinking, I want to extend my gratitude to my subscribers. I don't want to get a reputation for eating alone here. So thank you for the recent positive attention this channel's been receiving. It really means the world to me. Now put down the gabagool and show that subscribe button some respect, because at 100 subscribers, I'm giving away the first merchandise for this channel. It's one of a kind. So if you want the goods, comment below, you jamooks.